Hello, my name is Gary Crone. I'm a Child Protection Supervisor with the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, here to talk today about the issue of permanency from the viewpoint of an employee. Before I get started with that, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I've been with DCFS for 22 years, and in that time, I've held positions such as intact, placement, I've done investigations, as well as I had a brief stint with licensing through my MSW practicum. So I've had a vast experience with permanency and working with families. During that time, I've gotten a chance to meet a lot of different people and work with many families. And while all that has been aiding my ability to perform my job, basically there's another unique aspect to my life that many people don't know about. And that is, I grew up in the system. About the age of 7, my family came to the attention of DCFS. I lived with my mom, my dad, and my younger brother, who's about 3 years younger than me. And, like many families, we thought things were going well. And as a 7-year-old, you just think about what's in front of you and where you're at that time. And my parents were going through a divorce, and we ended up in a situation where my parents' verbal confrontations grew to be physical, and there was domestic violence and a lot of substance abuse, alcohol and drugs, and my brother and I were front row seat to that. Well, as time grew, we ended up, my parents did get a divorce, and as we came to the attention of DCFS, we had a worker come out to the house. And back then, workers carried cases, 60, 75 cases, so they were only required to see families once a month. And the worker would come out. We just knew some lady was coming out to the house. She would talk to us every once in a while when she was out there, and our parents had told us, don't worry about her. She wasn't somebody that we needed to be concerned with, and they were just there to ruin our lives. Well, as a kid, you kind of go about your business, like I said. So anyway, my parents did go ahead and they got the divorce, and we ended up staying with our mom. And we would see our dad from time to time. And when we would see him, things were great. But when we weren't with him, he proceeded to be in a downward spiral, and he would drink and go out and get into fights. It led him into a situation where he would be in trouble with the law. So we were with our mom. My brother and I were with our mom. And those relationships that she had, some of them were good. She did bounce from relationship to relationship, and a lot of those ended in domestic violence. So we would witness that. And there was a lot of drinking and drugs going on. Again, as a kid, you see that something's going on, it's fun, it's a party. We just knew that people were happy. And, there were times that even when my mom would be involved with a relationship and a previous boyfriend would be jealous, he would come in, and we even had a situation where we had observed a man come in with a gun, and he had attempted to shoot one of the other people while we were there. As time went on, about the age of 11, the one thing I specifically remember is we were at school, and our DCFS worker had come to school to remove us from our mother. And I specifically remember that feeling, and when somebody says they're paralyzed with fear, I understand what that means. Paralyzed with fear, that day I was numb. I had feelings of anger, I had feelings of fear, scared, confusion, what's going to happen, what's going to happen to my mom, what's going to happen with my brother, what's going to happen with me. It was just kind of almost a dream, if you will, that, okay, what's going on kind of a deal. And I was fortunate that my brother and I were placed in the same home, and it was an emergency foster home who only took kids up to the age of 12. But one of the things that comes to mind with me was, at no time did my worker ever say, or a foster parent ever say to me or my brother, that our parents were horrible people. They said that they had some things they needed to work on. They said that they had made some poor choices, and that they needed us to be in a different place so that they could work on those issues. At the time, being a kid, you think, okay, you know, I don't like this worker, I hate her, I don't want her to be around me. But, you know, those things were, now I look back on, and those are the things that went on. And fortunately, the foster parent that I had, she did only take kids till 12, but she made an exception in my case because I turned 12 soon after we were there, and she decided to go ahead and keep me at the house. And that stuck with me because it gave me a sense of belonging. It gave me a sense of somebody believed in me, wanted me around. And you know, that stuck with me really well. And then the other part is when we would go to visits with our mom, because our dad was incarcerated, so we didn't get an opportunity to see him, but we would go to visits. If my mom didn't show up for those visits, my brother and I were still treated like kids at the office. We would go there, workers would say hi, they would smile, they would go out of their way to basically talk to us and treat us like people. We weren't treated any different than anybody else. And that was one of the things that was really important and was good for us as kids. The other thing is that I kept the same worker. She chose to keep my brother and I as a case, and as time went on and I went into high school and ended up going on to college, and I was fortunate enough that I got the DCFS scholarship. I won that and attended Illinois State University. And during that time, I knew I wanted to be somebody that worked with the community, worked with kids. And during that time there, I thought, what did I want to do? At first, I thought I wanted to be a coach because I was involved in sports and I enjoyed those, and I ran track at Illinois State. And I thought, okay, this is something I want to do. And I started thinking a little bit about it. And as I thought more about it, one of the things that came to mind is I talked to my worker, and she and I discussed it, that I would have a unique insight to being a worker for DCFS or for any child welfare agency, because now I've been in the system. I know what it's like to be on that side, be a child and be removed. And that's something that not many people can say. And not only would I have that experience, but I would know what it's like to be a worker as well. So I went ahead and I got my bachelor's degree in social work, and fortunately I was able to get a job right out of college and started working with a private agency in child welfare, and soon started working with DCFS. And I bring that all up and bring that back to permanency because it kind of gives you an idea what permanency is. And many people will have a different take on what permanency can look like, what it should be. And right now DCFS is attempting to improve the stats for permanency for children in care. And it's important for many reasons. Because one, when we improve permanency for our children, it improves the community. It improves those children's lives, not only as a kid, but as a grown-up. And permanency is a sense of belonging. It's a sense of, you know, where do I fit in? And as a child, you only know what's in front of you. Time is right there, and as an adult, you think, man, this week flew by, or this day flew by. But as a child, you only can concentrate and you only know what's there. And when you're removed from a world that you know and you've learned to survive in, you don't know anything different. And one of the situations for the kids that we work with on a regular basis, and it's so traumatic for them, is when they are removed from a parent's home, it's important for workers and especially investigators as we go in to take that extra time, because you just don't know what's going to stick with the child. It could be something that you don't think is very important, that you just do every day, something like smile at them, saying hi to them, waving at them, maybe taking them to get an ice cream or giving them a piece of gum. Those things may stick with a child because you treated them as a regular person. You didn't treat them as somebody who doesn't belong. And permanency is that, just that, that you want that permanent placement. And there is no magical wand that we can wave and say, these kids should go to this foster home or that foster home. If there was that, it'd be wonderful for everybody. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And so, workers do struggle with trying to find the best fit, and they should take that time, because you just want that child to be in as few places as possible. And sometimes we can make that happen, and sometimes we can't. And being a child protection supervisor, people have asked, when does permanency start? Well, with DCFS, it starts the moment that hotline report is received. The moment we get that report and go out to a family's home and try to make a decision on whether or not children are safe or not. And that should always be a last resort as to removing a child. And parents, they do love their children. Children love their parents and will always look towards going back to them. And there's nothing wrong with that, and they should. And if we can do just what I just said, and that is we, if not point fingers and say, you should do this or you should do that, it needs to be a we, it needs to be an us. And if we can work together on this permanency issue, we can make things happen. But we need to listen. We need to listen to the kids. We need to listen to the workers out in the field. We need to listen to the families and let them be themselves to a point so that they can experience life, so that they can grow into people that will be productive in society, that will be people who may end up being child welfare workers, for that matter. I've never forgotten where I've come from. People have asked, is it embarrassing to say that you were a foster child? No, it's not. It's not at all. My parents do love me. They love my brother. And I love them. Do I like what they've done? No, I don't like what they did. But there's a difference, and you have to be able to separate that. And I think if we can do that, if we can work not only as DCP, but also placement and intact, work with their community, courts, law enforcement, I think that we will improve our position with permanency. Thank you.